What's up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD interview. Well, every single week we interview top entrepreneurs, top badasses, and people just dominating their space. So really today, this is going to be an interview, but it's also an introduction into a new show that we decided to do. So I'm sitting there wondering, okay, how can I bring more value? We want to keep bringing massive value to our audiences. Then it's like, okay, who do I roll with most in my world? Who are some of the experts and the badasses that I spend most time with, that I make sure that are in close proximity, working within my organization with, and how can we bring more value to the show? So what we decided to do, which I'm really excited about this, is that my executive producer come on. We're going to start a show, the Josh and Aaron show, the J&E show. I'm sure we'll come up with something like lame and corny for it.
You got to come up with a good name.
Yeah. But we're every single week, dude, we're going to come in, we're going to talk to you guys about just overall, whether it's business, whether it's online marketing strategy, whether it's branding, whether it's film, video, editing, who knows, current affairs, just whatever the hell we want to talk about. So I wanted to start today off, dude, with an introduction to who Aaron is, and kind of give you guys an idea of who he is, what he does, what his expertise are. I mean, you lived a hell of a life, dude. You've done a lot of things. You're a badass at what you do, and of course that's why I made sure to make sure that you were the producer of the show, because you're the best guy for the job, dude. So let's dive in, dude. So you're doing a lot of things, right? I mean, we look at your world today. We look at before I met you, for example, and I know you're still doing a lot of this work, but you're working with in the online digital space, some of the biggest names that exist in the space, the biggest names that are out there, landing these big accounts. But I know that you didn't start there. So just like every interview, man, let's get into your journey, dude. Let's kind of rewind the clocks a little bit and go through your path of becoming an entrepreneur and what you're doing today.
Sure. So, I mean, first of all, this is really awkward being on this side of the fence, and it's really hot over here. I mean, guests would say that before and after the show, but like, damn, it's really actually hot over here. Man, so to take it back, I guess, my first entrepreneurial experience, I was pretty young, man. What's funny is when I met you for the first time, we, within 30 minutes, realized that we were both from the same region of Michigan. He's from Grand Haven. My first job was actually in Grand Haven, Michigan, and I used to get paid to fly kites on the beach, and I would teach people how to fly kites, and I would sell them those kites on the beach. I worked for a company called Mackinac Kite Company, and they're still in Grand Haven today. And that was kind of like my first introduction into sales, into, I don't know, I mean, it was a very independent job, right? So you had to go out there, you had to hustle. And that was really kind of my first take on having some sort of employment. And I mean, I was like 12 years old. Like, I was young. I was younger than the average person that would go and, get a W-2 job or work for some company. I just had this skill set. I had this drive to go out there and do it. And the guy who owned the company was like, dude, you should totally go do this. And we rocked it. And that turned into like a 4 or 5 year relationship, which I can go into that. It's a whole nother long story. But that was kind of the beginning of that. And then I was in high school. I'm a high school dropout. I did get a college degree, but that was many years afterwards. But in high school, dude, I was just a troublemaker, smoking weed, drinking beer, selling weed. I mean, like, that was to me, that was like, oh, this is where I need to be. But I mean, Michigan, right? Small town, small thinking. I didn't have, not to say every small town is small thinking, but I didn't know that there was much more out there than getting fucked up. So like, to me, that was like my whole world. And I got in a lot of trouble for many years. Yep. And but growing up like that, growing up on the streets, moving out to Arizona, I've been here now for almost 14 years. I mean, so much has changed in that time period, but a lot of who I am today is based on who I was back then. So, I mean, really your specialty, and I don't know, I mean, it's hard to really narrow down, especially because there's a lot of you're one of those unique individuals that's good at a lot of different things, but video, film editing, branding, graphic design, I mean, you're really brilliant in those spaces. At what point did you get interested in those, and what, how did you start learning that craft, and what got you into that space? Yeah, so the first time I ever designed a logo, I was in elementary school, and there was a contest between everybody within the elementary school, and the faculty said, well, we need somebody to design a logo for this year's class. And and I won. And it was just something I did on Microsoft Paint. It was just kind of like this intuitive process of creating something that I felt made sense for its purpose. And to me, that's what design is. Design's about solving a problem. It's about communication visually. So it's just kind of like this natural thing that I've had for a long time. And fast forward, I mentioned the troubles that I had with drugs and alcohol and things like that. I ended up meeting a mentor of mine, a really good friend who had passed away. But before he passed away, he said, Aaron, man, he's like, dude, you've overcome drugs, you've overcome alcohol, you've overcome all these huge things. That's the hardest thing you're ever going to have to do in your life. He's like, now that you've done that, what do you want to do? He's like, that's the hardest thing you'll ever have to deal with. What do you want to do? And this is like a lot of what GSD is all about. It's like getting clarity on really what you want. And I didn't really think about it at the time. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew deep down that my ability to create something out of nothing was something that I was really passionate about. So I went to art school, and he gave me, he allowed me to not pay him rent. He was also my landlord at the time. He said, don't worry about rent. I want you to get into college. And that's what started my, degree. That's what started really me getting into the arts. And from that stemmed learning, Photoshop, pretty much all the Adobe programs. I mean, when you go to school, when you go to art school, you're told that you need to find one modality, one thing that you're good at. So you're either a graphic designer, you're a videographer, you're an animation student, you're a photographer. Well, to me, like, I'm just compelled to create things. So I didn't want to just be stuck in this like one narrow thing. So when I was in art school, I went for graphic design. I got a degree in that, majored in design, minored in marketing and advertising. And but I studied every other modality that they had there. And I tried to give myself enough time to semi-master those things. Like, I do consider myself a jack of all trades, but I would say that there are a few things that I've mastered in doing that. But again, I just feel like I'm compelled to create something. And that could be a photograph, that could be a website, that could be a logo, that could be a video, that could be a song. That could be a tree house. I don't really care. Like, to me, I just like creating things from nothing, and not even really for the reaction that other people get. It's just like, it's filling an inner need that I have for myself. So some of the best work that I do is stuff that's not tainted by a client, stuff that's people don't request me for. It's me just going off and being like, man, I really want to do something with my hands today. What can I do? And that's some of the best work that I've created. Yeah,
love it, dude. So, okay, so bro, you get done with your degree. What'd you do from there? Did you go get a job, or did you, I know that you owned an ad agency for a while. I mean, what did you jump into from that point?
So yeah, I actually, that same mentor, his name was Brian Ong. Brian encouraged me to start a business too. The network that we belonged to was pretty deep. A lot of them needed, a lot of the people within that network, they needed logos, they needed business cards, they needed these things. I was already able to fulfill on those. So he helped me get my business license. He's like, dude, you need to start business right away. And that's pretty much what I did. Like, I owned my business before I even started college. And from that, I was working out of my apartment with just me and two other people. I had a couple people calling for me, just like, setting up appointments for me to go in and talk to people who needed design work or any sort of fulfillment. And it started there. And after about 2 or 3 years, moved into an office. After about 3-4 years, we had 30 employees, 10,000 square foot facility. I mean, we were like balls to the walls, just rocking and rolling, had over 350 clients, some of which are the high profile clients that you mentioned. Others are actually the same clients that we were able to meet through. So, it was, I don't know what it was that actually got that, got the business to go from, okay, I'm in my apartment to now to where it was. But I was so passionate about it. It was just me. It wasn't like I was working. I was just waking up and I was doing what I love to do. And because of that, it was, the side effect was I built a business. Now, I did sell the company, and it sounds glorious. I owned 51%. I ended up acquiring partners along the way. I sold my equity, took some of the assets, took a small book of business, and then I started working more with online brands, digital entrepreneurs, the people like Entrepreneur on Fire, John Lee Dumas, Nick Unsworth from Life on Fire, and Jamie Tardy, Eventual Millionaire, these people that you knew when we met. at first, and kind of opened the doors for us to work together. So closing those doors, or at least closing that part of my life, opened up a huge opportunity for me to work online, because now I'm working on a global scale, whereas before I'm just working on a local scale, helping small brick and mortar businesses with just little chintzy things here and there. And that's not really what I wanted to do. So, I just had to really look at where I was at, what I had built, and I really had to reevaluate, well, is this really where I want to be for the rest of my life? And on top of that, the overhead every month was like almost giving me a heart attack. I'm like, I don't know how we're making this happen. Like it was working and it was happening, but I don't know how. Like it was beyond me.
Yep.
So.
Nah, I hear you, brother. Those growth pains can become pretty gnarly at times, dude.
Yeah.
All right, dude. So now, and I don't know how to, I'm sure you can put into better words than I can, but the easiest thing for me to say, like when people are like, well, what does Aaron do for you? I'm like, well, he makes a geek like me look fucking cool. You know what I mean? Like he puts all this stuff together, he does all, whatever. So you do a lot with branding, and let's kind of go into some of the big mistakes. Our listener base, and you know our listener base very well. You're working on the show every single day. So our listener base are entrepreneurs that are trying to go out there and brand themselves, build up their brands. Let's kind of talk about that. Let's kind of talk about some of the mistakes that you see, because I guess it's a really biggest specialty. People look for you to, hey, I'm starting this new business. I need to create a logo, create a name, create a brand for myself to launch that off and do that. And I know you have some other branding products out there that you're involved with. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the biggest mistakes that you just see people just dropping the ball, these entrepreneurs that are just totally flopping on.
Totally, yeah. And I'll answer the big mistakes. I want to go back to what you just said about what do I do for you, because a lot of people, like, there was a gentleman in the office yesterday and he's like, oh, you do the video. Oh, you're not a realtor, or you're not this and that. And it's so hard when people even ask me, what do I do?
I don't even know what I do.
It's like, shit, man, do you have 10 minutes for me to answer? I actually thought about making a YouTube video just about what I do. So, but yes, branding is by far has been kind of my my primary vocation for many years, and it happens to be my passion, so it works out great. What I do for you specifically, yes, is all the video production, everything that you see here, all the cameras, the lights, the editing, the iTunes, Stitcher, all that. But to really answer your question, what are the biggest mistakes that I see people making? I think a lot of people try to make a product for themselves more than filling a need in the marketplace. So one of the things that I like to say, and I've coached a lot of people too, I do a lot of coaching and consulting. One thing that I always say is like, you as the client may be the judge. You are the judge of GSD mode, but the consumer is the jury and the executioner. So if the consumer is not clicking play, if they're not downloading, if they're not sharing this information, then we failed together as a team. So to me, the consumer is the most important person, and they're not even in the room. So we can't even like pick their brain and be like, hey, what do you guys want? What do you need? Like we have to say, hey, leave a comment. Share this post. What do you want us to, so like they're not even here in this room, but they are the most important person. So the biggest problem that I think people make is like, oh, I'm going to have a logo. I want it blue because I like the Dallas Cowboys, and I want, it's like, and they just have like all this ego driven, okay, I want to be a business owner because I want to be an entrepreneur. I mean, even the word entrepreneur is like so trending right now. But they want to do it for, I think, the wrong reasons. Whereas like they're not doing it because they're passionate about it. They're just kind of doing it to fill this void internally. And a lot of what I've done, like when I was 12 years old or 11 years old designing that logo, I wasn't thinking I'm an entrepreneur. You know what I mean? I was just doing what I love to do, and the rest of the cards just kind of fell into play. So that's a huge mistake I see. I think a lot of people jump into things. They put the cart way before the horse. They jump into it way earlier. They're not prepared. One of the products that I have, the Activator, which is designed for digital entrepreneurs, content creators, coaches, people online trying to build a business online. And this isn't a plug, but it really is to help people get a little bit of clarity before they jump into this. A lot of people, they want to design their website. They want to design their logos. They want to hang the pictures up in the room before they put the furniture in. And to me, that's really ass backwards. It's like, no, you need to have somewhat of a game plan. You got to know who you're communicating to. Is there a need for this in the market? And then you design, you develop, you make your decisions based off of some sort of facts, some sort of information. not just off of a whim, not just because, oh, I think this is going to be great. It's like I need a little bit, for me to be somewhat successful, I need a little bit of validation before I go all in or start investing money or time.
So how do you recommend, and I know that this could be going this for hours and hours and hours, but just kind of the quick and short answer of, what do you recommend? What would you recommend people to start digging in? I mean, do they reach out to friends and family? Do they, is it, I mean, how do we know? How are we able to validate that?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I don't recommend reaching out to friends and family. Friends and family are to me, they're similar in mindset as you are, whereas they'll be like, oh, you're doing a good job. Oh, I think that's a great idea. That's why I like having a coach, because sometimes they'll call me out on my shit. They care more about my business than my feelings, whereas friends and family, they're just like, they're supporters, right? So for me, I think that when validating, and the way that I've done it, I guess I'll share my experience over somebody else, is that people have requested things from me. And when I start seeing a trend of the same request happening over and over again, to me, that's validation to go out and create that, or at least test it and say, okay, shit, I'll throw up a one-page site and see. So for example, podcasting it really became mainstream in the last maybe 3 or 4 years. And I joined a mastermind group. And I'm sorry, I'm giving you a longer answer, but I want to just kind of dive in and give a little clarity on this, because there was a need for people who needed graphics specifically for iTunes and Stitcher. They needed these squares, which you see our GSD one on iTunes and Stitcher. So I created a one-page site. It's called mypodcastgraphic.com. It's no longer up, so you don't need to look for it. But I created that because people kept asking me, hey, can you do a podcast graphic? Hey, can you do this? Can you do that? Like, yeah, sure. So just out of curiosity, I created a one-page website. It turned into, I would say, almost a 6-figure business in the course of a year. Like it was pretty close, because what I found too is not only did they need a podcast graphic, they needed a website, they needed a logo, they need a whole slew of digital assets, not just this one thing. But they validated that for me. I wasn't like, oh, what do people need that I can design, and can I just go out there and start asking? Now keep in mind too, I was doing a lot of work. And I was publishing that work, and people knew that I was a designer. People knew that I was in this space, so they would come to me and they would ask me for different things, and that was my way of kind of validating that. Now, what can somebody else do to validate? We talk a lot about blogging, talk a lot about creating content in general. If there's something that you're passionate about, create it. Try it because you feel the need to create it, not because you want to see how the audience responds. And if people do start responding, just start responding in general, then you may be onto something. But again, I wouldn't take an idea and go balls to the walls, invest 100% into it without having some form of validation.
Yeah. Yep, couldn't agree more, dude. So let's kind of go into a path of talking a little bit about video and what you're doing with video. Maybe some of what the recommendations are. Because video is the most powerful medium that really exists out there today. Everybody that's in business or even not in business, I mean, you me telling your story via video, and that's what we really focus on very heavily here in GSD. What do people do to get started with video? Because people might not be able to go out there and afford $10,000 in video equipment. Like how can people get started? What are some recommendations to get started for somebody that is on a shoestring budget to go out there and start creating a little bit of that YouTube experience, that vlog, whatever it is, to get their name out there?
Yeah. So, video is, you're right. It to me is one of the most broad mediums out there, and it's not difficult to really start in video or in creating video. I only started about 2 years ago. I have no formal training, no education in video. My education, again, was just in design, in graphic design. So when I started learning video, I already had a camera. So, if you need a camera, you can get a digital SLR or DSLR, like a Nikon or a Canon or something like a Rebel, or I'm using a D7000, which is a few years old. And I'll link those in the description if you guys want to see the equipment that we're actually using. But you can pick up a camera for $1,000, or you can use your iPhone. If you want to create vlog style stuff, like you can absolutely do that. To me, the most important part of the video is in the editing process, because that's where you get to create the story. What camera it was shot on isn't as important, but one thing that I do believe is pretty important is the audio quality. You can have a shitty visual experience, but if you have a shitty visual experience and a shitty audio experience, you're just gonna have a shitty experience altogether. So like you have to have at least one of those two components. Should be really nice. And then take, I say take some online courses. I taught myself how to use Adobe Premiere, which is the editing software that I use, from Adobe TV. I spent 48 hours and I just like crushed through all these tutorials, and I taught myself how to use that platform, which is what they use to make movies. I mean, this is like the best of the best platform. But I mean, you can use iMovie, you can use Camtasia, you can use any of the ones that come with your computer or something you can download for free. But to make a good video, or to make a good movie, or to tell a good story, the best way that I found to do that is by studying other people that make really good movies and stories. So like, I mean, you say this all the time, like good artists copy, great artists steal, right? So it's not that I'm stealing, but I will do my best to adopt a style from somebody that I look up to, that I'm like, oh, this is really badass, right? I will copy it to the T. Now, I might not publish it, but I'll do it just so I have the experience to be like, oh, how did he cut that? How did he make that work, right? And then once I have that in my memory bank, I can source that later on. I can source that when I'm doing a video for you. Even though it's not, it's not going to be directly related to that person initially, the style is still, adopted from somebody else. So I think not worrying about the actual technology, getting past that barrier, but studying people that are really good at it and just doing it. A lot of people just don't even start because they don't think they can, or they think it's too much of a pain in the ass, or it's going to cost too much money. I could probably shoot this into an episode of the GSD show on an iPhone just to show people how it would turn out.
Yeah.
And I could even show them how to edit it. I think it's actually a good idea for an episode.
Yeah,
we should probably do that.
All right, dude. So when you're talking about going and checking out and like copying, not copying, but getting an idea and getting inspiration from other people's content, do you recommend following people that are in the same space then, or just how do you go out and find those people to follow?
So, I mean, I'm not the typical consumer. I use YouTube like people use Netflix, like people use Hulu. Like I watch YouTube. I have the Chromecast or whatever on my TV. So I plug in through my phone and I watch YouTube. First of all, I find things that are not only entertaining for me, but also educational. So you've talked about your E versus E ratio before in a prior episode, which I will link in this description as well. Which is your entertainment versus education. And for me, my entertainment is my education, right? So like I could be watching a Casey Neistat vlog and be like, whoa, this is really badass. I love the way that he cut this in, and draw inspiration from that. But so for me, YouTube is the best place to go and find anything you want. I mean, you literally use it as a search engine, right? So you can go in there and look up anything that you want to learn, anything that you want to know about. Somebody's made a video of it on YouTube. Now the video may be good, it may be bad. That's cool. You might find a channel that's like, whoa, this is really badass. I'm going to subscribe to that and watch all their prior, or all their episodes moving forward. And to me, that's how I've found that. But I also really have to pay attention when I'm watching these things, because it's not that I'm just educating myself, but I'm thinking in my mind, how did they make that? Like, how did they cut that? How did they do that in that specific way to make me that much more interested? So you're also dissecting the elements in which are interesting, not just listening to the content, right? So a lot of it's just dissecting how they created that. And you can do that from anybody. Really, I would just say find a source that you feel comfortable watching and something that is interesting to you and educational if you can, and go from there.
All right, so kind of switching gears a little bit. With your other industry when you own the ad agency, there's a lot of good things that came with that, but a lot of bad, a lot of stress, whatever. And just like all of us in life, we have our ups, we have our downs, we overcome adversity. What do you do, dude, in those, and what have you done to become successful in those hard moments? Because so many people and so many of our listeners might be going through a tough time. I get, 10 messages a day from guessers like, hey, saw this, I'm going through this tough time, thanks so much for sending this, whatever it may be. Like, we all go through those, we all experience those. It's getting through those and learning from those experiences that really define us as human beings. So what have you done in your world to really just make sure to keep you pushing forward in those times?
Yeah, that's a tough question. There are times where I've given up, or at least I've said I'm done and I'm throwing in the towel, and that only lasts like a week. You can't give up. Like for me, idle hands are the devil's playground, right? Like I can't just sit there and be like, all right, I'm going to go take this job and I'm just going to relax. Like we talk about mediocrity. Like I can't, it's just, I'm not wired that way. And I don't know if a lot of people are or aren't. Like, I mean, I think that for me, there are times where I've absolutely given up, but then there's something inside of me that's like, I can't give up. Like, I mean, this is my life. This is what I do. And it is. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have a job, to be in an industry that I would consider is my life. Some people are like, oh, that's your job. That's not your life. Well, no, this is my life. Like I would be doing the same shit at home right now, producing something if I wasn't here producing something for you. So like for me, it's like, this is my life and I can't stop. And again, 2 years ago, I wasn't producing any video. Like this is a new form of creative expression that I've taken on the last 2 years. 2 years from now, I don't know what I'm going to be, what am I going to be creating then? Like, I have no freaking idea. I might be building something in a wood shop, like, God forbid, I don't think we're ever going to be building anything on GSD in a wood shop. But in all honesty, like, I think that it's just something that I'm born with. I think that for me, I have got to keep on this creative path, keep on this path of creating things out of nothing, or I'll go insane. Like straight up. Like my next thing probably is music. I really want to get into starting to create music. And I have no background in music. I couldn't tell you what any of I couldn't read a book of music on a piano. I have no formal training at all. But I feel intuitively that I understand how it works, and I want to experiment with it. I want to explore it.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, when I failed in like with the ad agency, it was about 1 month that I was down. And one thing that I can say, and that I think anyone who's a smart or true entrepreneur are very good networkers. They understand how to leverage relationships and be available when they need to be and for other people and companies. And it was very easy for me like to go on in transition. It's always been easy for me to make transitions in life. But I think that with failure, dude, it's like, again, it's just another learning experience. Yep. It just is what it is, and you keep moving forward. This tattoo, actually, that's what this is a little triangle. It just represents keep moving forward. It's right on my hand. It's something that I see every day, and it's about, dude, it's just all about keep moving forward. Yep. It's very similar to your Be More. I mean, it's the same type of principle, same mentality.
We got him done right in the studio, same girl, same time.
You see, we see him every day, and there's just these little reminders that are like, dude, don't stop, keep moving forward. And it sounds cliche, but I mean, it just is what it is. Like, people can take it how they want. I don't really care what other people think.
People might say it's a cliche, dude, but I mean, look how many people just live in the past. It's like, dude, the windshield's 10 times bigger than the rearview mirror for a reason. Like, you look at the past to reflect, to learn, to grow. Then you got to keep.
Now, dude, I'll be honest with you. Like, I've lived in the past too. Like, I'm definitely not I'm not the perfect freaking dude. But working with you, and this is totally like. This is a real testimony to you. Like, dude, you've made a huge impact in my life. I was getting lost, dude, and through the transitions and through the things I was living in the past, and then I heard you speak, and dude, like it totally changed my life. So I'm grateful to be here, dude. I'm grateful to be on the podcast. I'm grateful to be a part of this, and I mean, really, it's I don't know where I would be. I think right now, I mean, I would still be okay, but I don't know exactly where I would be if our paths wouldn't have crossed.
Yep. No, honored to have you here, dude. Honored to be rolling with you, bro. What do you do then, dude, for your self-development? Because, so we look at, like, okay, like if we look at your transition, so you're like, okay, well, let's just say, and this isn't the only thing that you focus on, but I'm a branding expert. Well, branding for a while was print. It was newspaper. It was magazines. Now it's turned into video. Now then it might transition to something else, whatever it may be. But to stay ahead of the curve, to stay, keep your finger on the pulse, so you're always having to educate yourself, stay on top of that. What does self-development look like for you? I know you mentioned, okay, I'm always on YouTube watching that stuff, checking that out. But what does that look like for you? I mean, how do you make sure that you're staying ahead of the curve?
Yeah, I mean, dude, that's tough. I mean, I do consume a lot of content myself. I consume a lot more than I think probably the average person. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm watching YouTube videos. Again, educational stuff that is in my industry because I want to. I don't feel like it's ever a job to like to educate myself, right? Like I want to know, dude, how did this guy get 10,000 subscribers in 3 months? Like, I'm curious, what did he do? What was his trick? Like, there's got to be some rhyme to the reason. I don't know, man. That's a really tough question, dude. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I get the vagueness, and I don't think a lot of people can understand it. I think you and I get it. I think our listeners get it, because they're driven, and that's why they're watching this show. But some people don't. Like I'll get asked all the time, like, do you like movies or do you like watching them? I'm like, fuck no, it's boring as shit to me.
Right.
Like, I can't. It's pain for me to go watch a 2-hour movie. Like, I used to love movies. But, now that I'm creating that epic stuff that I want to create, nothing compares to it.
Yeah.
So, like, all those old things that used to bring you fulfillment don't. So then when you're immersed in that.
I'll tell you one thing that I think is really important to me in my own self-development. And to me, self-development, too, there's a couple aspects. I mean, you've got this physical self-development, the spiritual, mental, emotional. To me, there's different aspects. When it comes to entrepreneurship and growing in my space, I'm a conference junkie. I've already been to like 7 conferences this year. I mean, dude, because I went to VidCon in Los Angeles.
Month you're going.
I know. every month.
I'm the opposite. I've been like 1 in 7 years.
Now, and keep in mind though, like, I'm going, even though I'm gone, like, I am building more value in myself. So like, I go to the Infusionsoft conference. I've been to the Digital Summit this year, VidCon. New Media Expo. Like, I go to these places because not only I wouldn't even say our competitors, they're friendly competition. The other people that are in their space that are really doing well, that are dominating in their space, are there. Yep. So for me, it's my job. It's always been my job to network. It's not necessarily about getting business from them or having an opportunity to work with them. No, I just want to I want to meet with them. I want to know, what are they doing, and because I'm kind of up there in the social ladder with some of these other people, it's easy for me to go in and meet somebody that has 1 million subscribers and shake their hand and ask them some questions. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. You talk about, going in and picking people's brains that are top realtors, when you were just getting started. It's kind of the same way for me at a conference. Like, I can go and meet with a keynote speaker that owns $1 billion corporation and ask them questions. Like, that's fucking rad. Like, you can't get that, at a nightclub out here on a Friday night. Like, it just doesn't exist. So to me, those are investments in myself for my own entrepreneurial self-development.
Yep. I dig it, dude. And you're good at it too. I mean, you're good with people. You've got that personality, dude, where you're able to go out there and have those open conversations with strangers and connect. So, no, I totally get it. And there's massive value in it. So, I love conferences too. I just don't go because traveling with 3 little kids and everything else right now, it's just. But I used to go to a lot, so I couldn't agree more. Those are definitely.
We'll go.
Effective.
We'll end up going. I'm sure we will.
Yep. Yeah. So what do you do personally for goal setting, dude? How do you stay focused on track? What do you do to goal set? What do you do to make sure that you are leveling up, that you're operating in GSD mode, that you're not getting comfortable, that you're not accepting mediocrity?
Dude, another good question. Well, before I would do my typical goal setting, which is like 3 to 5 year goals, or I would have my 1 year goal, which I would do a goal in January, right? And then in hindsight, now I think about it. Okay, yeah, in June and July, I'm past that goal. I'm like on to my next goal, right? So instead of that, since I've been working with you, dude, I've adopted the GSD mode model. So for me, it's something that I have to look at daily, my goals. So whatever that goal is. So in my bathroom, I have a mirror that I have written, and I think I was telling you about. I have this template kind of down of what are my focus or what are my main focuses, and I usually have a couple, and they don't only have to do with business. Some of them have to do with family, and maybe just milestones in my life. Like, one of the things is I want to write a book. I'm going to cross that off in the next year. I'm gonna have an actual hardback book that somebody can purchase. And it's not about making the money. This is just something that I want to do. It's fulfilling for me. But I need to see that shit every day. It's not something that I can say and publicly be like, okay, and then you guys kind of hold me accountable. I don't expect anybody to hold me accountable. This is something that I have to do. So for me, writing it down, seeing it every day, that's been working. It's been working because when I first started working with you, I did it, man. I wrote it down. I put all the things down. I think I was telling you this the other day. And just last week, I looked through all the different things and I'm like, holy shit, half of those things have happened. So I actually erased everything and I started over again. So, you know, what used to be 1 year, 3 year, 5 year goals for me, now I've turned into like micro hyper niched goals that I think ultimately lead me to that bigger picture, to like, okay, what is that true bit of clarity that I want? Like, what is that one outcome that I truly want?
Yep.
So
no, I dig it, dude. You know, so many people will sit there and look at like vision boards and you know, writing your goals, and they'll think it's kind of corny or kind of cheesy. And I'm like, dude, they just, I don't know. I mean, I had resistance too, but they just work.
Dude,
you know what
totally.
I mean? I even make my kids do them, dude. Like our New Year's Eve party, like everybody else is out there partying, dude. My wife, my kids, and I, like even my 3-4 year olds or whatever, we're doing all vision boards together. It's and
it's sweet, man. And how cool to have your kids grow up in an environment like that, because like the way I grew up was so ass backwards, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I love my family, don't get me wrong, but like it is nothing like, I mean, what our kids get to go through now.
All right, dude. So what was you didn't you have some experiences or previous career doing a little yo-yoing?
Oh God, I thought you were gonna bring that up at the beginning of the episode. No, so I like went past that. I went to the kite, selling kites on the beach. Yeah, man. So that was the same company, Mackinac Kite Company. So they also started selling yo-yos there. And there was a company called Yomega. Yomega made the brain. It had like this little clutch inside. You'd throw it down, then it would sleep, then it would come back up. So like the idea is it would come back up to your hand every time, no matter what. So the dude who, Bob, his name was Bob Nagin. He's like, dude, you're so good at your hand-eye coordination, flying kites, and I was juggling clubs and stuff like that over there. I mean, total circus kid over there. He's like, he gave me a yo-yo. He's like, I want you to try playing with this. So like, I'm playing with it. Like, I don't know, maybe a month or two goes by and I'm doing tricks, man. I'm not just like rock the baby. Like I'm doing some kind of advanced stuff. And he decides to start doing these yo-yo classes at Mackinac Kite Company. So I'm teaching yo-yo classes at Mackinac Kite Company. So, and again, like, dude, I'm 12 years old, like getting paid by the hour to go teach kids how to play with yo-yos, to go fly kites on the beach. Like, dude, what a pain in the ass. But so that it started with teaching. Then I got sponsored by the actual company, and then I toured around the United States, going school to school, venue to venue, with this program called the Dream Dare Do program, which was like dare to have a dream and stick with it. Like, it doesn't matter if it's yo-yos or whatever it is, like, you can make your dreams a reality. And interesting message, but that's what I did. So I went everywhere from New York to Hawaii within the course of like 2 years playing with yo-yos. And it was a crazy experience. Like, most people don't know that. And then the people that do, they're like, oh, bring out your yo-yos, and I'm like, fuck you,
I think it's cool, man. I mean, because it shows at a young age. I mean, to have those skills at that young of age, you had to have been obsessed with, and I don't know if obsessed is the word, but really, really focused on becoming good at that particular craft.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I was 11th in the world, 3rd in the nation, and then like the best in Michigan years and years and years in a row. But I mean, I traveled and everything was all paid for, expense. Like it was a good gig.
Yeah.
Like, I actually thought about going back to it at one point. I'm like, man, I could probably
be
crush it
yo-yo
in this space, dude.
in GSD.
Yeah.
All right, dude. So you just had a new kid, new baby, but like month old, 2 months old,
2 months old,
2 months old, and you've got another son as well. How do you? And I hate the word balance because I don't think balance exists in life. But how do you transition? Because a lot of entrepreneurs, it gets so difficult, dude. It's like, okay, I'm over here and I'm obsessed. I'm just trying to build this thing and I'm obsessed and whatever. And then how do you transition so then that you can be over here and be that father and be that husband and not neglect those relationships in life? So like, what do you do kind of to keep that leveled out a little bit?
Yeah, I mean that's tough. It's really tough because the way that I operate, I have a hard time shutting it off because it's just a part of who I am. And my wife knows that. That's what she married. She married a guy that like works his ass off. And I guess the one thing that I can say that I do very well is when I go home, I do my best just to shut it off. I take the watch off. because I'm wearing an Apple Watch. It beeps all the time. It just rang. But I take the watch off, I take the phone off, and to me, that's sometimes enough just to shut out, at least from whatever communication that's coming in. But my mind is still racing, right? So my mind's thinking about a video idea or something. But when I'm with my kids, to me, it's kind of hard to not be present with them when I'm with them, because I don't know, dude, they're your kids, right? Like, you love them so much, and they're just so fucking adorable. Like, I don't know. So for me, when I'm with my kids, I really cherish those moments, because I know that, like, my son's he's almost 3. He'll be 3 in January. But dude, like, that time flies, man. Like, my daughter, I'm holding her like this. So, like, dude, that's only going to last, it may be another 6 months or a year, but the way my mind works in errand time, that's like 30 days, because time just freaking flies for me. So yeah, I just do my best to cherish those moments. And I do think that it's important to shut out. I don't want to be known as that dad that was like always fucking with his phone, at every single kid event. And so far I haven't been that dad. Also, for me, it's really important because my father was not an integral part of my life growing up. So that's just like one of those things where I don't want to have my kids have anything like the experience that I had growing up. So part of my mission in life, and I think my true purpose isn't just to be a creative guy going out there creating all sorts of cool shit, is to really be a good father and have like a legacy with my family. So that's really by far probably the most important thing. And one of the things that really guides the majority of my decisions today is what opportunities is this going to provide for my family?
Yep.
Which you talk about a lot, which I respect a lot, because I think it's true. Like, if I'm making decisions out there, like, I think it's a bad idea for somebody who has 2 or 3 kids to be like, hey, I'm going to leave my job and become an entrepreneur and go build this shit. And it's like, you have especially if they have no validation, like we talked about earlier, it's like, to me, that's like a really rocky road. So, I don't know. I'm lucky to be where I'm at. I'm lucky to have a family. I'm lucky for everything that I have. Like, I really feel like I have more than I deserve. Even though I know I deserve a lot. Sometimes I look at my life and I'm like, dude, who is this imposter? You know what I mean? Like, I'm driving in this nice neighborhood and I'm thinking like
with
where
your nice
I was.
Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Your nice Jeep.
And I'm thinking about where I was, 10 years ago. And it's like, dude, 10 years ago, I was probably in some jail, coming to, wondering how I got another DUI. Like, the truth is, like, my past is pretty crazy. So to be where I'm at today, like, dude, all I can say is that there's an abundance of gratitude. And I honestly, like, they are the main reason why I get up and I hustle even harder than I usually do. Yeah. So
no, that's awesome, dude. So putting you on the spot here a little bit, what do you feel is the most challenging thing, in here in GSD Studios with what we're doing, with working with me? What do you feel is the most challenging part of what you do today?
You're making me think, dude, because I don't. I want to give you a good answer, so just let me think about it, because to be honest with you, the most challenging thing is, I've never met anybody that has as much of a drive as you, like, hands down. I've never met anybody that hustles and comes in. You are GSD. Like, this is your brand. This is your baby. And to be honest with you, sometimes I'm like, shit, man, I am not leveling up, like, even as much as I know I could. Like, and I think I've even texted you before, like, shit, man, I need to get this straight, dude. I need to get this in order. Like, you're leveling up today as I'm recording it for you. I'm like, man, he's like talking to me. I don't know. Like, I don't go to church very often. I go to a place where I meditate, and it's like a center for spiritual living. It's not necessarily a church, but you know how, like, when you go to one of those places and you feel like that guy's talking right to you, it's like, no matter what, you're like, oh, that's kind of what I feel like when you're doing some of these leveling ups. So to me, like, some of the most challenging things, dude, is like, man, I want to be at that space. I want to be there, but it's difficult, dude. It's not, dude, leveling up is not easy. You mentioned leveling up is very lonely, dude, it's very lonely. Like, I don't have any friends. You know what I mean? Like, my friends are my colleagues, and I'm okay with that. Like, Lindsay and I were talking about that the other day. Like, we don't have friends. Like, we got kids and we got a career. But dude, like, this is me. This is my life, right? Like, I got to take care of myself, and I got to do what's best for me and my family. So to me, leveling up isn't just about externally what other people see, what the perception is. It's about how I feel in here. So, like, leveling up is an internal battle that I have. So to me, probably the most challenging thing, dude, is keeping up with your ass, dude, because you're fucking, dude, you were like unreal. I've never seen anybody work as much as you.
Well, yeah, it's you just gotta keep pushing, dude. Right? You just gotta keep going, and you will expand. I mean, you've had so much growth in the last 6 months that we've been working together. I mean, you'll get there. It takes a long time. I mean, I've been at this now for 12 years, and you just got to keep pushing, man. You just got to keep getting that clarity on what you want, and you just follow the process. You work your ass off, and you keep doing it. But it all pays off in the end, dude, for sure. What should we be talking about in this show?
What should we talk
about?
So
not like right this moment, but what are we gonna be doing with the show? So we got this weekly show that you and I are doing. So today was just kind of more of an introduction, so people kind of know who you are, get to know you, because usually you're the dude behind the video camera. So now today you're on the camera, so they can get to know you. But we want to add some value and some different things. I mean, what are some big topics that you think our listener base needs to hear that we should be focusing on in the next few weeks?
Yeah, and we've kind of gone back and forth about this. I mean, in our listener base, if you really break it down, I would say 50 to maybe even a little over 50% are realtors. Then you've got the 40 to the other 50% entrepreneurs, people that are trying to make businesses online that are successful. I'd like to talk a lot about funnels, what we do, our model, how we monetize our model. I think that that's important. I mean, I know that you can admit that certain aspects of GSD, even though the webinar business and some of the other things aren't directly related to GSD, there are a lot of these things that feed into each other. And I think what we're doing in here is pretty amazing. I mean, there's a lot of people that would love to know how this exactly works. So for any digital entrepreneur or person online that's trying to make a living, there are a lot of things that I think they need to know. One is, we talk about web design. We talk about lead pages. We talk about conversion. We talk about video creation. We talk about podcasting. I mean, this is the type of stuff that online entrepreneurs, content creators need to know and want to know. So that's one thing. I mean, what value could I bring to a show like this? Well, obviously I have my decade of branding expertise. Worked with literally hundreds of online entrepreneurs, digital entrepreneurs, course creators, coaches, web development, video production, audio production, photography. You name it, dude. Anything that requires an Adobe program, I've pretty much done. So there's a lot of things I think that I could bring value to a show and help get clarity for anyone who's wanting to really start an online-based business. Coupled with the webinar stuff that we're doing, I think that that really is the future. I think that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, dude, you needed to be hooked up with NBC, CBS to get your message out there, to be broadcasted. Well, now YouTube has made this global platform where you could be anybody in your garage making 6 figures a month if you're creating valuable content that the consumers demand. So how do you do that? Where do you start? What idea is worth validating? Most people don't even know. It's like, to me, I think that you're either an expert from doing the same thing over and over again, or you're an expert through failing time and time again. Like, you can be an expert through failure because even those little nuggets of information are valuable to somebody. So I'd like to challenge, I guess, any one of our listeners to say, well, what type of business would you like to start online? Because to me, in my business, it doesn't matter what industry. It could be real estate. You could own a dental practice. You could own a solar company. You could sell e-cigarettes online. I've worked with pretty much every single industry known to man. Like, I can't really think of any that I haven't helped support. So I think that there's huge value in that. On top of the fact that dude, the GSD mode model, you pretty much apply that to anything, you're going to fucking crush it.
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of... So
rolls. Yeah, and you know, to our listeners out there, if you're watching this or if you're listening to us, you know, shoot us emails. Shoot us, you know, you can email me, Joshua at GSD Mode. Aaron's is Aaron, Aaron at GSDmode.com. If you guys have questions that you want or topics that you want on the show, you know, if it's hey, interested in you know, whether it is video editing, whether it is building an online business, how do I go out there and start building my social media strategy? Or what would you recommend there? You know, give us your feedback. I mean, we want to definitely, all these shows exist to give more value to you guys. Like Aaron alluded to earlier, people go out there and try to create stuff that they think others want or others hear. You know, it's like the GSD was mine until we released it. Then at this point, we give you guys what you guys want more of, more paying attention to. Okay, what episodes get more viewerships? What get more positive comments? What do we get more feedback? What doesn't get feedback? And sometimes, some of the episodes, I'm like, oh, this is going to slay, this is kill, this is what these guys need to hear, and it just totally flops. You know, so we need, you know, anything that you guys want to hit on, I mean, participate, and we'll you know, do everything we possibly can to cover those and give you that value to go out there and keep kicking ass in your world.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't just our show. This is your show. Like, we respond. We follow our own model of listening to the audience, right? Like, you guys are the jury and the executioner, right? So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great, dude. It'll add a little mix. Obviously, we've got the leveling ups, the knowledge rounds, all the interviews, top agent, top entrepreneur. So, dude, I'm stoked. It's gonna be cool.
It's gonna be a badass time, dude. So, all right, you guys. So each week we're gonna start bringing this show to you every single week, week in and week out, hitting topics. I don't know what we're gonna talk about next show. We'll figure that out before now. If you guys
I'm not bringing any yo-yos.
If you have any suggestions, throw those in. But Aaron, brother, it's an honor rolling with you, dude. Proud to have you in the GSD Mode family, dude. And it's been a true honor, man.
Thanks, man.
So,
Thanks. Appreciate
all right,
it.
you guys. Well, you guys keep crushing it. Like we always talk about, information without implementation is the start of delusion. So take some of the nuggets that you heard today, start implementing, start taking action, go out there and kick ass, create the life that you want. Life is brief, blink of an eye, it's over. Don't hesitate, don't wait, just go. Right? So you guys have an epic day. Keep kicking ass, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out.